I'm waiting. Just
I don't know why. It just struck me. Hello.
Oh boy. This is what happens when we have travel on the docket. You just start to become all the different, or try.
I don't even know what that. I don't know what that is.
Yeah,
Is that English? Hello.
Yeah, I guess it's like Cockney. Governor.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Maybe. It is what it is.
Something. It's definitely something.
It's definitely something.
It's definitely a way to come in. It's a real way to start.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good.
Do you ask that of people?
Do I personally?
Yeah.
Or
like,
should you be? Or are you saying like
I know
should
we're
you ask that of
supposed
people?
to. No, I know, but like, okay, if I haven't spoken to someone and they're not like it's someone where I feel like a little bit more formal with them, I'll be like, "Hi, how are you?"
Mm-hmm.
But anyone else, family, in-laws, friends, like, you know, and you're seeing each other every day, or like you and I talk so much, like to be like, how are you? Obviously, we're going to do it on the pod, but like, I don't know.
Maybe not anymore after this. Speaking of family, this is We Are Family.
This is the episode we're covering.
Hi, I'm Brendan Fehr.
And I'm Majandra Delfino. A decade or two ago,
Closer to 3, really.
a while back, we starred in the cult hit WB show Roswell.
And while we are in fact ex-co-stars, we are also actual exes. In real life.
Boyfriend and girlfriend exes.
Unnecessary clarification, but welcome to the X-Files, where we analyze all things Roswell. Episodes, co-stars, guest stars, and all the goings-on in front of the camera and behind the scenes.
In our probe, we may or may not agree, we may or may not get along, but if our history is any indication, we will most certainly dig up old stuff from the past and throw down. With guests, old and new, weighing in on who was right and who was wrong.
Oh, if we remember it, we're going to talk about it.
And if we don't remember, it's all good, because I kept my teenage diary to cross-reference, corroborate, confirm.
Wait, what?
Correct. So be prepared to pick a side.
Your actual diary, like, for real.
Having a change of heart?
More like a change of underwear.
Welcome
To the X-Files.
This is episode 12 of the second season. And this is, again, we're in the Hybrid Chronicles. January 29th.
I love when you get studious.
Hold on a second.
Now this is a typo.
It is a typo.
2001. It says 2000. Robin.
Oh.
Robin.
Yeah.
Robin.
January 29th, 2001. Gretchen Berg, Aaron Harberts. David Grossman. This is a very well-directed episode, in my opinion.
Very.
Erica Gimbel, Agent Suzanne Duff, Keith Cesarbaka. I'd rather him be Lipscomb. Zarabaka. That's easy.
I love it. That's easy for me. I'm like, Zarabaka, you dummy.
I know, you can't say Lipscomb, but you got
but I can't say Lipscomb.
this thing with Z's and K's and
exactly, like, no problem. Something right up my alley.
This whole thing might as well be in Arabic. You could probably read it.
I'm totally fine.
Dan Lubrican, Diane Farr, Amy DeLuca, Allison Lang, Laurie Dupree, Robert Cadams, Jason's dad as Judge Lewis, Devin Gummersall, the ex, Jason Peck, the pest, Rachel Winfrey, Shanna O'Neill, the store clerk. Shanna's that's my sister's name, but you don't see that too often.
You don't. And Seema Ramani.
Yeah, Seema Ramani. Oh yeah, the nurse.
Yeah.
The town council comes together to make a decision on Jim Valenti's future, while Laurie Dupree's paranoia reaches an all-time high when she sees Michael. A strange blue crystal grows at the burial site. This is Jim Valenti's story, kind of like all the way. I think we've taken a turn here. I dug To Protect and Serve was good. And I think it got better with We Are Family.
Yep. I dug it.
The sexual dysfunction unit is that way.
Well, speaking of that, the sexual function unit is the theme of my journal.
Oh.
Can't share.
You can't share.
No way, Brendan.
I don't even know what it is.
Share.
What are you talking? Don't yell at me like I know what it is and I'm going, you can't share.
Just, there's this a rainmaker,
Oh.
Just Mr. just doling out orgasms to the young women, such as myself.
Okay. So there's that.
So that was that.
That's that.
Brendan is blushing. My first note, I love that I'm just beating this drum or horse. Deputy Hansen, zero recollection of this man on set. He's like saying I never saw this man walking around, sitting down on a director's chair. You know what I mean? Like, I do not remember the presence of this man and I feel terrible. And then it kind of made me spiral, period, about just being a teen on set, being in my own world.
You just didn't have a lot to do in the sheriff's office. You're not around, you're not on those nights with and neither was I in this one, really. It was Max and Isabel taking the ride-alongs.
But the thing about this show in particular, at least the way it was structured for us, we were always there. It's not like we weren't there. We were always on set. I was there. It's not like I was home.
Yeah, but I think they shot all his stuff in a day or two. You know what I mean? If you're not there that morning, it all takes place in the sheriff's office.
I guess.
And you're not there. You're in hair and makeup while they're doing that, or you've gone home. Yeah.
Yeah,
anyway.
I must have just been, waiting
Jason,
in your trailer, spread eagle.
We got to get Jason on, and I'll tell him that we should have killed him. Okay.
Start that over, please. The delay, too. You're just when you got your footing back. But yeah, we should have Jason on to tell us.
Yeah, we should. And I'll tell him straight to his face. I think he should have been killed off. But that's what makes such a great character, is when you love to hate or hate to love, or one that's that pesky thing. So it's no knock. It was my own
he seemed
coach.
Lovely.
My own coach used to say, though, if I'm not yelling at you, it means I don't believe in you anymore.
Oh, 100%. Your ballet
and so
teacher.
The fact that I'm on that we should kill Jason Peck means that he is having a part of that I'm noticing him and we need to get rid of him in a good way.
Yep. You can hear me still, right?
Yeah.
I put my book down on the thing.
Oh.
On my interface. Okay. But yeah, it would be spread eagle. Just always comes back.
Book is spread eagle on the interface.
And I thought it did something to my knobs. Okay, shawl sweater. This was my second note. Shawl sweater on the judge. That cable knit shawl sweater.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
He doesn't have it draped over himself, though, does he?
No, when
he's wearing the arms.
This is called a shawl collar, where it doesn't have. Oh, okay. That's what I mean. It just felt very I'm a judge. I'm hoity-toity. It just felt little
on the nose.
It also just felt brand spanking new.
Having Alex back is great, because I remember him coming back. He had disappeared for a while, not just from the show. Obviously, in the show, he goes to Sweden. But I think
this is when he shot Orange County?
No, we killed him so he could go shoot Orange County.
Hmm.
I think he was doing something else here. Or maybe they just haven't written him. We got to get him on the show and we'll ask him. But it was good to have him back. And I thought it was it was just the little details in this one. When you guys are all up on Liz's terrace balcony.
All up on Liz's jock. Yeah, on her balcony.
I don't know whose idea it was, but to play it like it's a cold night it's so small, but it made it feel way more real, and it actually lent itself. You don't agree? Okay, hold on. But I thought
I'm making faces because I certainly didn't sell it as real. I was putting way too much icing on that cake. I didn't. I mean, truly. You see me, I'm you're the only one. It was
but even in the back,
tone it down.
Katie's got her bowl and
that.
She's eating. No, but you're in the background of one shot where you go, and you just go, it's so cold. And it was just so natural. And it was just I thought it was
That's nice of
really,
you.
I thought it was nice, and I thought it really grounded the scene and made it real, and it also kind of brought me back to the fact, like, it actually brings a closeness to the group because,
Reminds
you know,
you
you're
how,
out there kind of suffering, but gladly because, you know, someone's new and this is where you got to watch the slideshow. And I just thought it was a really nice scene. It was just a bunch of teens talking to each other.
Yeah.
And, you know, it wasn't that, but it was just so grounded. It was so well done. I don't know. It stood out to me. I really, really liked it.
It stood out to me when he came back, when they're like, you know, Alex, like so excited.
In the hall.
Yeah, baby Colin, like just like so little, young. But then I did write when Maria says he needs you about Max. First of all, she like clocks Max before he's even there.
I mean, yeah.
And way to edit that. That editor must have been mad at me. But then I go, he needs you to Liz. And it was just really heavy-handed. I wrote, I want to vom. That's in vomit.
And the camera move there in that hallway that switches from like you and Colin, and then Sherry goes, and then it drags Mac.
Sherry's shirt was awesome. It sent me on a spiral.
It really was. I noticed it as well.
I went
Her
to
hair
Poshmark.
looks good too.
Yeah, but that shirt, I was like, I mean, I started like online shopping. I was like, get back to what you were doing. I wrote Agent Duff is a hottie, the FBI woman.
Yeah.
And then I
liked her. She was good. She was good as well.
Yeah.
Like,
I said, I love that Michael's poking around. I don't know if I'm skipping ahead too much, but that was hilarious that you're like there at the site poking around.
Yeah. Always a little curious, you know. I mean, like I said, if Isabel thinks something's going on, alien-wise, this gets us back home. Like Michael's going to be fucking at attention all in.
Yeah.
I've really harnessed these powers, by the way. Like, I open the door with them. I do smash the window. And I think that was the only thing I don't think I could have, like, pulled it open. But he's really like, the what do you call it? Like, the fine motor skills of this power a little bit.
Yeah, he's honing it.
He's really dialed it in because, like, he's not blowing up the frame of the door or anything like that. I'm just... Good for him.
Yeah. Okay. You know. Sean DeLuca. What can I say? You know.
Yeah.
Just Devin Gummersall is a bad boy. Maybe like he could be like just something a little more intelligent. It's just hard to hide the wheels turning of knowledge, you know?
Yeah, he could have used... I don't know. It's like he's so good.
Yeah.
But I do, you know, it was one of those where I think he was like Kadam's boy, right? Like,
oh yeah.
And I think I had a little chip on my shoulder because of that.
Did you know too that I had been set up with him the year before? I don't know.
Well, I didn't. Yeah. And Kadam set you up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he had him come to set. He did like a whole... I think I met Devin at a premiere before the pilot got picked up. Just totally coincidentally, he met me and my sister. And then he was on set, season 1, with Kadams. And Kadams was like... I know now that it was a thing where he's like, I'd like to come meet her.
Oh.
Which, by the way...
Good for him. Good for him.
What was the helmet, my hair, that you called it?
X-Wing
you know
fighter.
I mean? Yeah, exactly. Good for him for seeing past that. But
you look like
a baby helmet.
Man at Arms from He-Man. Do you know what he looks like?
I don't even know who that is, but
here.
You're saying it's not She-Ra.
No.
Exactly.
Man at Arms.
So, listen, that's some people's type, apparently. But,
Here.
By the way, that's so nice of you. That's very forgiving, because that man has much longer hair or much longer helmet than my helmet. I don't know anyway, I don't want to rush you, but
yeah, I think I had a thing against Devin just because I knew he was Caden's boy. And then this is after of, obviously 47 and our little fallout. So I think I was just like, I wasn't the favorite anymore. We weren't getting along. And then I wasn't jealous of him or like, I think he's going to take my job. But I was just like, oh, you're one of his guys. Like you're on the wrong side.
Yeah, were you ever his favorite? No. Caden's?
Probably not, no.
Oh,
but I'm just saying.
I'm not his favorite anymore. I was like, but yeah, I remember full. I remember being intimidated by Devin. Of course, I was like, this is my so-called life. Legend,
right, which I had never seen, so I was just I just knew about it, and I was like, "You're a fucking geek. You're a crack owl. Fuck you."
To me, there's like Meryl Streep, and it was like everyone else on my so-called life was about
right.
Yeah, I did. I don't know if we're there yet. I don't want to rush you. When Valenti gets home, and he goes to put his jacket away, a la Mr. Rogers, and Laurie Dupree's in the closet is like, "Stop looking for me."
Well. It was a great jump scare.
It reminded me of "Don't touch me, don't touch me." Like stop looking for me. He's like, "Stop looking for me." Like what? It was so strange. Like, why are you in my home? I had to rewind it because I was like, he can't possibly be home. He must be in her home.
It's like you are in my house.
Yeah.
But I thought it was a good jump scare. Like it was
very good. But
yeah,
I just
we didn't do a lot of those, and so I think when we did them, which I can't think of another. I'm like, don't even know. Anything about this show, so to not think of another one is
she was a great sport. She sold it. It was great, but I was like, that's.
And also, it seemed exhausting for her this episode to be like, where I was just looking at her going, and if you don't know, if you've never listened to this podcast or listened, Allison Lang, who plays Laurie Dupree, was my roommate in L.A. and did not.
The one with a nice rack.
Did not get the job because of me. I don't even know if I don't even know if we lived. I
think you were. No, maybe this was Vine at this point.
Yeah, we had lived together. Yeah, but had nothing to do with it. Got it on her own merit. And there's a whole little with Sarah Downing and all that stuff. It was all it felt so normal back then. Like, yeah. Because you kind of knew everyone, but now looking back, I was like,
what a coincidence!
A little odd, the whole thing.
And by the way, I did go back and look through my entire diary to see if I ever bring up Sarah Downing. I completely missed the mark and was a little bit like concerned about Isabella Miko. Isabella Miko. I mean, she was so cute, Brendan.
She was cute, but
she was like a cat had come to life.
She was a cat.
And that is the highest compliment. I mean, she was in my opinion, stunning.
I just remember.
And also a great rack. Sorry to be so one note.
I've seen her rack too.
Exactly, me too.
She's naked in the Forsaken.
Yeah, naked in the Forsaken. Yeah. And so that's funny that like my radar was way off. I mean,
What do you mean it was
Isabella
way off?
Miko well, meaning like,
You thought I was going to do something with Isabella.
Yeah. Like, or that was like something to be worried about. And it's like, this is Isabella Miko.
I could have gotten her. I don't know. No, she had a boyfriend at the time.
Yeah.
Which
also, even if she didn't. Okay.
Okay. The separation of aliens and humans in this, like it wasn't like this rift that they were like it didn't feel like we're gonna tear you guys apart. Like me and you don't seem to have a problem in these episodes, like we're not fighting or anything like that. Max and Liz
Laurie's
are
family.
Yeah,
we are family.
Max and Liz are on a little bit of a break of sorts, and it's just I mean, Max and Isabel are doing their thing. Michael's he disappears until, I think, because I'm going to get a bigger storyline now that Laurie's there, Grandpa 1935, baby. I wasn't in much of To Serve and Protect and this one because I think it was coming up, and obviously this is Bill's, but I liked I liked that it felt, again, that's that balance that we're always talking about. It felt really natural and really good. But looking at it, I went, oh yeah, they're not really interacting that much. And when they do, it's like the Max and Liz scene in the diner at the very end where they, with the history book, and they kind of come together. But you still have, kind of Sean on her mind.
I glazed over.
I know. I just thought it was good. It felt like, I don't know, it added something to it where we were allowed to take a break, and like the characters were resetting with Alex coming back, and the humans were having their own thing and the aliens were having their own thing without it feeling like it was contrived.
Right. Yeah. True.
Sorry, I'll shut up now. Fuck.
No, I was saying I glazed over because that... Cut that. I wrote, Lori is having a classic abduction. No one believes you because they leave no evidence experience, where she's like, the needles, and there's like nothing there. And I was like,
right.
Classic abduction.
Look for the anal
so
probe.
Classic.
Uh,
Which, by the way, that is a theory that the reason that the government doesn't admit to extraterrestrial life is because then they have to admit that they are incapable of stopping abductions, and they haven't been able to stop abductions. So it puts them in a place of weakness, and they just want to save face to the public. I don't believe that. I do believe that. What's that? I said Lori's reaction to Michael. Also, that guest star life. I mean, when you're a guest star, you usually have to do all the heavy lifting, and she really did. A lot of running around.
And it's a recurring, not a guest star. There's a difference.
Yeah, basically anything that isn't the lazy, top 4 or whatever.
She's great. And then we get, sorry, go on. Do you have anything else?
I wrote Lori fighting Michael, and then we had all so much experience with that. Allison and I used to, back in your first apartment, we used to like run around and try to like...
Vista?
Huh?
Vista? Oh no, the house. Orange.
Yeah, orange. Yeah, her and I would always like run around and like, I don't know, just like get real like hold, And so it was very funny when you guys were doing that, because I feel like we would all get in a weird like hold the wrists, and
right.
Hold her down and tie her down. And I like
it's always very hard to also.
No, it looked great, but I love how you're delayed with all the like.
I'm wondering if I'm missing something. No, but like to have to manhandle a woman.
No, I know.
Like you're always like, ooh, how is this going to look, and whatever else. I mean, listen, in Baron and DeLuca, I wanted to talk to you out of, the scene in the bar.
Yeah, but that was supposed to be sexual.
Well, yeah,
and
it was, but I also was like, this is.
You're like, what have you gotten into?
I know.
You've changed. God, I'm so sorry. Men learning to control emotions, stoicism. I just found the sheriff to be so stoic. It was so chilling, like to have that control. And then I was like, because I've learned that boys come out like much more emotional usually. And I realized that they only have one time that they have to learn learn thyself, and and they don't really have many like hormonal shifts from then on out.
Right.
And I feel like every time a girl masters it, there's a new hormonal hit, like pregnancy or, so like it's hard to land on stoicism when you're forever changing. But it's so impressive, that thing of, okay, I'm going to do whatever the law requires, or, his just,
yeah. And
nuggets.
He's in a real pickle. Like I'm even watching him going, you're caught red-handed. Like you're not going to get out of this. You're fucked, dude.
No panic.
Yeah.
Like to not be like,
Totally. And, you're definitely my favorite human. That between Kyle and Tess was a sweet little scene where, he's basically, at the end, like, leave me out of this, fuck off. I don't want anything to do with you. And then just that sweet moment between those two. I thought it was really nice.
Yeah. I wrote, Alex has a type.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Do we ever see her? Does a girlfriend ever come visit? She does, right?
Oh, I don't think so, no.
No?
You would
He dies
know.
before?
Believe me, you'd remember that day. He's obsessed with blondes. Did you hear that? I liked when Liz cried. Like, he shows, his type, and then Liz cried and then moved her hair. This was like, I don't know if you saw this tear.
Oh, interesting. Jason does do this in the diner too, which is he's like, he flings his bangs and is like, dude, they're not long enough. They're only like to here. Like, what could have possibly
You holding the headphone?
Well,
and
because I didn't want
to
to fling them off.
I was like, he's like, or like to like security. He's like, I don't know. It just had a vibe.
And then we have this Amy DeLuca scene coming in the grocery store, which I did not expect.
Coming. So bad.
Didn't see it coming, and like so sad for Kyle and Tess to be witnessing that, and obviously with the history of the grandpa and what they're talking about, and then just this breath of fresh air coming in and shedding.
And Shetland ponies.
And Shetland ponies. I just go
left
off.
And right. We're like,
he's like, he's definitely on. The dementia's getting worse.
Yeah. Guys, we only have a few more episodes before we lose him.
No, just setting things right.
Yeah.
And in such a great light, but very like boss way.
Yes. That's the kind of mother that I try to be, where it's like, I will just say that thing.
Yeah.
And like for your kid, but I didn't realize, it just was so interesting where I was like, like they're like at a gas station basically, right?
Yeah, convenience store of some sort, yeah.
Yeah, it just had that like down home vibe, and she's like gets the like scratch off tickets. I was like, gosh darn it, I love her.
Yeah, it was so great. And this is just, ultimately it is, it's setting up Laurie Dupree and all that, and that aspect. But this Valenti is, it's his story, and he's just so good. And,
so good.
And like you said, they keep putting him in these positions, and I'm wondering even now how he's going to get out of it, and just the decisions made, like him sitting in that room after he gets fired. It's just, it's just so
such a
well
beautiful
done.
shot. I was like, wow. I would have just location bug. I would have been like, let's try to shoot some other things here. It was just such a great location. It was so wonderful.
And then the date, and then, she comes over and, sorry, am I skipping ahead?
No, not at all. He was definitely like wasted, right? In the date when she showed up.
Oh, wasted.
I just assumed, that he'd be like drinking.
He was sleeping.
Yeah, I just thought he was like sleeping off a buzz.
Oh.
Like I just imagine him like reeking of alcohol and cigarette, like that thing where you're just like such.
Yeah,
like,
I didn't get that vibe.
I know, I don't know why. I just inserted
but I like
that in there. Yeah. Which would be so like, he like stinks, and it's just.
And she's so sweet, but like not, and it's not like hitting on you, but it is sweet. Like it's this really soft shoe that of like the writers and the direction isn't like hammering it, but like of just being this really sweet thing of like helping you and everything else, and not like pushing it on, but and then they get to have a date and they get to kiss and it's all fun.
Yeah, she's like just a true nurturer,
Yeah.
Which is probably why she,
Which
loves too much.
She loves too much.
No, but like she had some boyfriend and got pregnant. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, at least put Maria up for adoption. It's so terrible. But it's funny because I remember the way that came off. I always felt like Maria seemed so well cared for. And I didn't feel that way about Max and Isabel. I felt like they had a weird, stilted, like I have to be perfect in front of, like that house for some reason felt cold to me. Don't know
Yeah, as
why.
much as they were loved, but I think it's because they know, I think that comes from Max and Isabel because they know they're hiding the secret and they feel like
Right.
they're betraying these people. So
Which I feel like is so what a lot of kids feel. Like there's my parents' perception of me, and then there's who I really am, and I can't really show them that. And that to
Right.
me is like such a creepy feeling when you walk into a house, or when you can sense that. And I did not get that vibe from Marie at all.
Yeah,
And-
no, I
and
think Amy and her have like open, honest
Yeah,
conversations.
which is so sweet.
And
Yeah.
very, just kind of the two of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of that,
We have a very special guest that I know very well. She's only 2 years older than me, but she played my mother.
she's not 2 years older than you.
She's on the hit CBS show Fire Country, even though I always read it as Fire County, and that's my ESL. Diane Farr. Diane Farr.
Diane Farr.
How are you?
I'm good. I just watched that episode and I'm so excited to talk to you. So cute.
Isn't it amazing?
It is.
And you look like such babies.
I mean, it is so wild. Off the bat, of course, it's always been so strange that you were hired to play my mother. Like,
best job ever, forever. Like you were my first TV child and what are we, like 10 years apart or something? And I was like,
I think we're 4 years apart, Diane. Like, it's just crazy. It's so Hollywood.
It's so Hollywood. The audition, I must have told you this at the time, but it was filled with ladies that were Jim Valenti's age, right?
Right.
So,
right.
And we're Jim's age now.
Yeah.
My God. Okay, so my dad also came to the set once, and he and my dad were the same age.
Oh my God.
Like the exact same age. And we all had like a giggle about it. And he was lovely because he was like, does this happen to you all the time? And I was like, yes.
Yeah,
But what's so funny is you have such, like, if you look like the way you do, which is young, but then you had like this kind of more, I don't know even what the word is, like demure or more,
like
kind of this like
sophistication.
sadder version, I don't know, kind of like worn out and world weary, then I could
She's a
see it
single mom.
happening. But you are,
But that's
you
the
look
thing,
the
it's,
way
like,
you look,
so
and then
bubbly.
you have this energy about you, and it's
I
just like,
know.
why does this happen? What is going on?
Yeah, like you're gonna send this man to an early grave. He's not gonna be able to keep up.
Totally.
You know?
I mean, I pray for Eagle every night.
He's a Viking. He can handle my shit. Oh my.
Eagle is like, you can tell, has like some sort of gold, some elixir just going through his body that he's fine. But like, I will say at the time, Valenti seemed so old to me, Diane, that I was so offended that they put you with him. I was like, I took it personally. And now I'm like, oh man, I'm his age. But still, I mean, it was a big age gap.
It was a
It
big
just was.
Oh, and the audition. So I'm in the waiting room and the ladies are like 25 years older than me. And they're annoyed that I'm even there. Like they're just annoyed that they called someone in. And I don't think she was written very funny, but I was just like, the first time I read it, I was like, oh, this is funny. Like I can make this funny. And then it was one of those auditions that you have every 5 years where they're laughing like you're doing stand up. And as it was happening, I was like, oh, fuck me, I'm going to get this job. I'm going to like be the mother of like a high school person. And we finished it. And before I walked out the door, I knew what was waiting for me in the waiting room. And the women were so pissed. They were so and now I knew then they were going to be annoyed. And I wanted to be like, I just did a different thing. Like,
Yeah.
like a
I'm so sorry.
secondary
Do you remember
character.
what the scene was?
No, but it was that energy of like, like that awkward, weird. And I just leaned into that, I think, more than was on the page. And Jason was so like adaptive, like he kept that going. And then I had so much fun with you, Majandra, all the time and all the stuff we were doing.
So much fun.
It became so much more, but those women wanted to shoot me. And I am such a like ladies lady.
Exactly. You're like
That's not what happened. I swear. Like, I'm not, like, it was not like a TNA thing at all. But
Right. But it is that kind of thing. Well, also, it's like we're all so frustrated with that, that dynamic of just like, oh, here comes the young one, and it's just, it's very frustrating.
Even your first, even like your introduction to this, where you're like, Jim's a very good man, something about, statutory
rape.
I mean, which is wild. But like,
so great.
Because even though you're reprimanding them,
yeah,
you still do it in a fun way. And I bet you, like, if something like that was the audition scene, everyone would have taken that seriously, and they really would have kind of gotten aggressive, and still of that fun aggressive that you bring to it, and be like, "Isn't that right, Cheryl?" or whatever her name was at the counter, like. And I could imagine that was what the audition was like, and everybody else just went in, and you stood out like, in a great way, like a sore thumb, like, oh, this is a breath of fresh air.
Oh yeah, and like a twinkle in Amy's eye, always. Always.
You guys are such good writers and directors and producers now. Like, that the whole ride of like a support character, it's like, it's got to jump off the page, right? Like, It's got to be so far from what's typical, or it has no value, because they have to be a very typical archetype.
Totally.
Or they're not illuminating the main character.
And at the same time, such a thankless job. Just coming in and having to give so much. But it was so fun every time you were on set. It was just such a blast, which was so not something I saw coming for Maria DeLuca's mother. Exactly. It truly was such a game changer. But I remember my mom, who's very, how do we say, she's, if men disappeared, she'd be fine, She might be the one who made it happen. But,
I was gonna say she's probably the one that buried him.
but she was so upset at how young you were, and that they were doing that to you as an actor, as if they were like putting the scarlet letter. I was like, she'll be fine, Mom. Do you know what I mean? But she was like, how dare they? This gorgeous woman, this young gorgeous woman. I was like, well, it's a show about aliens. Like, anything can be explained away. But it ended up just being such a good call. I mean, truly.
It was really fun. It was such a fun job. And I remember you saying to me once, I was standing outside and I must have been feeling funny because I kept coming back. And you were like, I wish you could see my actual mom. And I was like, oh, is your actual mom really sexy and hot? And you're like, yes.
I'm like, you're in good hands. You're in the right family.
Yeah. Smoke show.
Yeah. And very like high energy, thank God. But yeah, it's so funny because that was such an interesting call. It was so like, who's this going to be? And then you showed up and it was just the most delightful thing. And then, let's be honest, the person who really lucked out was Bill.
Yeah. Yeah, he's the luckiest out of all of us. Exactly.
I mean,
so fun. Okay, so here's like this age-old question that I've had forever, and just rewatching the episode today. Here's the truth about kissing people on screen. So I'm watching the episode and I don't remember that much of it because there were small scenes, right? Like when the word statutory rape came out of my mouth, I was like, oh my God, like, go team writers. And then we're in the car and I was like, how are they going to make this like cute without making it so asexual? And then I'm like, oh my God, we kiss. I had no recollection. I swear, I think I can remember every person I've ever made out with. And that's like a lot of decades of making out. Like kissing on set really is not the same thing as kissing because I didn't remember that part. Like,
yeah, it's like a full blackout.
It was like acting. It was like, I don't remember the dialogue and I don't remember the actions, but I remember if I hook up with someone because it's something internal versus like, this is the mechanics of a scene. Like
totally.
Today watching, I was like, oh, this is different than like kissing someone in real life.
Yes, it is. So, I mean, every time, Diane, I'm like, I'm quitting acting whenever because I'm like, what am I? Who is this person? You just met them.
Yes.
Whatever. They're like gross or who knows? It can be so many things. And it's just always so disheartening. It's also crazy, too, that you don't remember, because we don't remember so much, and it's embarrassing. It seems ungrateful, but we truly just do not remember.
I think it's a little like studying for anthropology in high school. Like you can regurgitate it on the day, but it doesn't stick. Like,
right.
And you guys were doing so much, you're doing 10, 12, 14 hours a day, every day, months at a time. Like it all just becomes one feeling of like, this season was like that. This season was like this.
Yes.
My with Jim was like this. My feeling when Brendan would come in, it was like, Brendan's very serious. He's not going to joke with me.
Brendan, what a bummer.
Oh, I'm a wet blanket.
Wet blanket Fehr.
Which is very diligent with excellent hair. I think I have your haircut now that you had.
His hair journey is its own thing. It's its own storyline.
It's a rabbit hole you do not want to go down. It's a black hole is what it is. You get sucked in, you're never coming out.
Oh my gosh.
But we do watch this show because, talking about like how old Bill was to us. And I think more, he was double our age, right? We're 20 and he was, he's more than double our age. And so, like he felt like the older one and we were spending more time obviously with each other than him. We weren't hanging out with him offset. And so there's a different dynamic. But then watching back, me and Majandra are always going like, golly, he's so fucking good looking. Like he's got a look to him where you just go, look at those eyes. Like he's got something about him where we're going, we didn't see that back then, but now we're just going, yes. Like,
oh my gosh, so funny.
What a look. Yeah.
I had a friend from high school that I grew up with around the corner from me. And one day in college, I remember her dad answered the door and I was like, oh God, you're handsome. Like I had never seen him as anything but a dad.
Yes.
Like one day you wake up and they become a human, I guess when we get old enough. But also has such a sweet, aw shucks demeanor about him. Like like if now when I think about putting very young people on a set with older people who have more experience and status, and he was such a safe person to be with very young, very beautiful people because there was not a lecherous thing about him. Like we spent a lot of time talking about his daughter at the time and I didn't know yet. Like I was just like, he was just a lovely guy.
Yeah, he really is. And it's funny because he could also play and be fun with the rest of, we were like kids, dumb humor, and he could go to our level and, didn't like make us feel ostracized and make us feel immature when meanwhile we so were. But like, what a professional, what a get. Like, I can't believe they got him for this.
Oh,
at that time, like,
yeah, he was more, not that he was like a leading man movie star, but he was a movie guy. He was a movie, like
Shawshank Redemption,
and Shawshank,
TV
Die Hard, like, and then to go back to TV is like back then was no.
Back then was no one wanted to do it. I wonder if it was his family, right? Like if he just wanted to be home with his kid and like have a period of normalcy. Like, I mean, we all hit that point at some point, right? Where you're just like,
that'll do it.
Your schedule.
Yeah.
I will share something with you that you might not know.
Oh dear.
Easy. As I just like rip off my shirt. Like, have you seen my chest tattoo?
You're like, got my nipples pierced.
And like, it's your face.
Yes, please. Here we go.
It's a tattoo of your hair.
I know. No, but Bill told Nick this, and Nick has repeated it when we've talked to him at conventions and we're on panels. But Bill's relationship, the most fun thing about playing Valenti on that show was he was a guy in all his movies. He never got the girl.
Oh, yeah.
Like he never got to have a relationship. In Shawshank, he was, kind of the weirdo or whatever else. Obviously in Die Hard, he's a bad guy. And Bill and Ted's, he's death. Like it's not going to happen. So,
Mrs. Death.
But he never, I guess, was never seen as the guy who got the girl or got to kind of play that relationship stuff. And he said that was the best thing that he got out of this was they didn't treat him like old. They didn't treat him like he was unlovable. Like he got a girl and he got a cool girl and he got to have kind of this relationship. And it meant more to him than you really would have thought or realized or even ever considered. So that was such a sweet thing to hear.
I know.
Love that. I love that so much because I hate when any of us get stuck in one type, right? Like, it happens to all of us. There was like a period of time. I was playing a detective on The Job while we were doing Roswell. So that was my first Dennis Leary show. It was shooting in New York, and it was the first single camera comedy. They didn't know what to do with it. They would pick it up in these tiny increments. And I did more episodes of Roswell the 3 years I was on that series than I did of my series. So I was sneaking. Like there's no internet yet, right? Like they didn't.
But so fun to be able to do that.
Yeah.
It was amazing. But it was like the detective thing was fun and crazy. And I didn't know how to shoot a gun. And I remember like it was ridiculous in some ways that I was doing it. And I didn't do enough homework at the time. And then Roswell was like the thing I never got to do. Like I also never got to be the quirky, definitely not a mom, but just the quirky girl that somebody's chasing. So I can imagine for him at that point in his career to like, stop minimizing me. Let me have all the feelings. Let me have all the experience. So, I'm so glad. I wonder too if it was because Jason was grown, Jason was a grown up and he knew that parents don't stop having, love interests and wants and needs just because they're parents, but how smart to bring it into the show.
And it was just done so well where it didn't, as a teen, didn't make you like, I remember on My So-Called Life when they would have like the parents would be like, all like hot to trot. I just want to vomit. And this was fantastic.
Yeah, I remember the prom episode. Like, I don't remember if he and I were supposed to be chaperones or something. And I remember thinking like, oh God, they're all going to be so bored when he and I come on screen. But they left us enough on the side where we could just be silly and almost like comic relief that I was like, oh, thank God. I didn't want to be the boring. I don't want to watch people make out.
Yeah, because you ultimately do know, like at that point, it was a teen show, right? It's like if I'm on Pretty Little Liars or something like that and I'm playing the dad, it's just like, I think I'm cool. But the 19-year-olds watching the show don't think I'm cool. So it's like, leave it to the teens. So, and I think that's where the writers have got to protect you, like you just said, where they just enough. But if it's well written, like I remember watching these back and you popping up here and there, I'm always, it's so, I have a different lens on it where I'm just going like, like this is so fun. It's such a little gift, that back then I wasn't paying attention to you because you guys, were older. It was just because I was selfish doing my own thing, with Majandra, trying to figure out, didn't know
life,
what was, happening in my own life and all that. So
much.
But all these, it truly is a gift, to have you guys on screen play that is so fun.
I remember too, it was such a payoff because he's so serious. Mm-hmm. And Amy was such this like ball of energy. And it just felt so satisfying when they had scenes together in real time, which is so, I think, so rare and so special. And it's just such a testament to what cool people they cast. I mean, even John Doe, Liz's dad, it's the coolest thing ever. But it was wild to see it back. What's so interesting, too, is when Amy shows up at his door, his lack of sort of self-consciousness and just lets her in. It's just, I was very into the whole small town. Obviously, none of us are back in our small town.
Right.
So it's hard to imagine as an adult who that would be or whatever. But there, that closeness, that history there just felt so believable.
As I watched it too, I thought I really couldn't get over how good the set designs were.
Right.
Your wardrobes were amazing. The uniforms at the crash down, but that painted wall in the background, and there was the small scene when the girl is in the hospital and there's a curtain behind her dividing the room, but instead of the drab beige, it was plaid. They put kitsch in everything. And I was like, this is so ahead of its time. It
totally
held up in the art of just visually watching it. I was like, wow.
Yeah. When I first went to Roswell, finally, that's what I expected.
Yes.
Was
and fun.
Yeah. I was like, ooh. And instead it was like a bunch of
Applebee's.
Targets and Applebee's. Yeah, exactly. I was like, ah. But that was such a trip to see. I mean, I did not know that you were going to come out in the convenience store. I did not remember that at all. It was such a great way to distill exactly who Amy is in just a couple sentences.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
so
really
great.
gave such a hero thing there. And then I was surprised too. And then I was like, was that it? Is that all that I do here? And then same like you said, when Jim answers the door and she comes in and she's giving him, the like blessing of his own experience and pretending. And I was like, do I do this for the whole scene? And I love that they dropped it into like, no, come on, let me just be your friend. It was like way ahead of its time for sharing truth on a network show of like, let's just get under the politeness of what two people would do.
Right.
I'm like, this is so good.
I know. Jason Katims, man. I mean, he just understands people on such a level, and that it can still hold up and not feel like trite or...
Yes.
It's just incredible.
Or like prissy in any way.
Yeah.
Like, really like, wow, this is great. And even every time the aliens are on screen, when the three of you come on, I can see what the DP's doing now, that he's making it a little darker and a little broodier. And it was almost like in this episode, you guys looked a little more formidable. Like, I don't know if they were shooting up, like your shoulders looked bigger. I was like, wow, this really was ahead of its time.
This was a very well-directed episode. Looking back on it, I thought, just some of the camera moves, even in the hallway, like there's a lot of movement. This is, and back then, it was film. So it was funny. I just remember all those rehearsals of like, it felt more, there was just something about it that felt more pure when you're shooting on film. Like everybody, I've said this before, gets their rehearsal. Yes. It costs money, so everyone's got to, you're not just pressing a button and going, we'll see what happens, right? Yeah. Right. And there's just something, there's a nostalgia in that as to how those sets worked. And I think it was a little different.
It was definitely a little different. And I love what you're talking about of like you're making the soup on the day versus capturing content and we'll figure out the story later.
Yeah,
like because so it costs nothing to overshoot. So we'll just get everything and figure it out at another time. Like it was so good to commit to, like we know as the actor when we got it, and the director might have a different thing, but most of the time it feels like everybody at once is like, oh, that was it. Like, you have the satisfaction of we did it and you move on, as opposed to this like amorphous, I don't know what they'll do with that scene when I'm done.
Right. Yeah. Like, what was that? Was that B-roll? Yeah. It's interesting because the three of us did not have children at the time that we know of. And, Diane and I, we don't know.
Hold on. That seems like I'm hardly being thrown under the bus on that one. I always like
to say that about myself, but it's,
I
know
you.
But it's funny because that sort of was the job that made the most sort of lasting impression, of course, because it's like our first real long-term job. And I grew accustomed to and loved and still crave that really long lighting setup. Because it's like we didn't have kids to get home to or whatever. And you had the triple banger trailers all with all your stuff and you'd get some books in and it just was so lovely. And now looking back, I can see, I couldn't really tell then, I didn't have like the understanding, but I can see where the effort went into as far as the lighting. Yeah. And it's incredible. Especially Jim was getting such great in-office lighting.
Yes.
The what was it where the council, when they were deciding on his fate.
Yes.
And it was voiceover, right? Like it wasn't even, he was in that meeting
And
that they were talking about,
right.
and it's being replayed over the decision having been made and him
We're
dealing
showing
with it,
him
which is
digesting it. Yeah. And like, what a beautiful shot. I was like,
know.
whoa.
I know.
And just,
what an amazing thing to see if a director decided that or they wrote it, that like, here's the rumination that goes on for this man.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they don't put us, we always look great, but they don't always, you're not always having, you got blinds across your face. You got half your face in total darkness or shadow. They really, it's pretty edgy, especially this episode, pretty edgy on the lighting side where, nowadays you could feel like maybe a network node or someone going like, they're a little too much in the dark. And it's just like, no, they're not. They're not. People know what's happening. Yeah. They can see an eye. They can feel it. You know what I mean? They're going to be able to hear it. Just let it play out. But it felt risky, this lighting.
It did.
It felt like we were left alone to do what we wanted to do.
Yeah, which comparatively we were, right?
Yeah.
It feels like he took the best of the vampire genre and allowed it to be part of the alien genre, but also like got in so much of that kitsch of what we want Roswell to be, of like the kookiness, of the creativity of it. And
but without it being cheesy, like
it's
typical.
Unreal that it's not cheesy, because also you guys are all so young. And I remember at the time being like, how do you all know how to act already? Like, how are you this good at this? Like, even just watching it today, I was like, God damn, who was that casting director? There is not like a bad apple in the bunch. Like, everybody delivering such a like human performance.
It's incredible to watch back and be like, oh, damn, like people were really good.
Yeah.
Now, has that casting director ever hired me again? No. And that's tough. It's the nature of the business.
Yes.
But it is true. But I thought there is something about, you never know what it's going to turn into, what kind of lasting legacy, if any, it's going to have. But I will say, I think when we all read the pilot, and people had been doing it longer, than me. But I think across the board, when we all read that pilot, it wasn't a teen show. Like, you didn't get this, you got a feeling there was a lot more depth to it, that it was way more interesting. It wasn't just sci-fi. It was this beautiful kind of melding of the worlds that felt real and natural. It wasn't just like, hey, let's put a bunch of beautiful people on there and shoot them and, do something. It really was about the relationships and really connecting people, and everything felt, for the most part, even the sci-fi stuff, like organic and natural. And it was just, and I think we knew that. And I think we were all scared. We said, if they don't fuck it up, let's make sure we don't fuck this up. Like, we dive into every kooky thing we got to say, because we're going to have to say we're going to have to respond to some crazy shit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, different colored aliens and this, and say stuff we don't quite maybe understand, but it's just like, we all just,
full commitment.
Yeah. And it really worked.
Well, the irony too, Diane, is that, the insecurity in this industry, I mean, we could go on and on, but our show was a Fox show then got picked up by the WB. And so it was funny because all of us, I think, or at least a lot of us, felt this insecurity of like, oh God, we're not WB good looking. We don't have abs and things like that. And so it's funny to watch as the seasons progress, how we try to like look a certain way. I mean, I was shocked with how much I'd plucked my eyebrows in this particular episode. And, I have extensions. It was just so funny to see us kind of feel like we had to be hot.
Oh my God.
Then looking back, I'm like, you guys were enough.
Yes, totally. And then I think also, like, network notes, like, what is the network? Like, each place that you have a home would change it, and what a thing that it was surviving from one to another. That must have been terrifying for you guys. Or like, oh no, now it'll become now as we're talking, I can see it so much as a perfect precursor to Friday Night Lights.
Right.
Like, really was interested in how do you fit in this society when you're the outsider. So, in Friday Night Lights, that might be the rich kid or the poor kid. And in Roswell, it's the alien kids versus the regular kids. But it's the same thing. And the parents fit in that sense also then, because your show is never about teenagers bumping into each other for sex. Like, of course, that's in there. There's always the Romeo and the Juliet of it. But it was more about like these two families or all of these families fitting in.
Yes.
Yeah, even if you look at Friday Night Lights, which I haven't seen a lot of it, but Kyle, the coach, obviously, like it feels like a kid's show, but it's a more, grown up. And like, he really popped from that. He doesn't just go, it's a kid's show, let's throw in the adults to be kind of the bad guys or the bad people, or whatever else to kind of, oversee them and give them a stern talking to and to be, the voice of reason. He gave all the adults in his shows, he seems like he gives them a purpose with the kids. They're not some little, kind of side piece or afterthought.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess he gives them flaws, right? Like, so if they still have needs, then it keeps them current and alive. And it really is amazing, the whole world of it. And then I remember I think one of my favorite scenes I've ever done in my whole career was on Roswell. There was the episode where I bust you two in bed, right? You're supposed to be in bed and I freak out and I go downstairs. And then I don't know if it was the next day or the next scene, you and I have a scene, Majandra, where I'm making you food and you're saying, how come it's okay for you, but it's not okay for me? And I come over and I'm flailing and mad, like, it's not okay for you because I kind of ruined my life having a kid so early. And the truth was, the night before I had seen Denzel Washington in some movie where he goes to jail. I don't even remember which one. I think he was supposed to be a fighter and he goes to jail. And he had the scene.
Hurricane.
Is it? Yes, the hurricane. Exactly. He's behind the plexiglass and he's taking the phone and he's hitting it like and whatever he did in that scene, I was like, what can I take this to? Like, what's going to come up next? And the next piece that came in was that episode. And I was like, I wonder if they'll let me take Amy DeLuca to somewhere really heavy, like that she has doubt and fear and she's not so funny. So I remember asking you in the trailer, I was like, can we get off book for this? Can we do this? Because I want to try and do it in rehearsal so they won't say no. Because I knew if I asked, it would sound like,
yes,
really far away.
Totally.
I was like, let's just do it. So we practiced in the trailer and then we walked in off book and I was like, can I show you the whole thing? Like not a real rehearsal. Can I like show you what I want to do? And as soon as we finished it, they were like, yes. And
that's so great.
It was like, because of what we're talking about, like if you give the character a dimension that's so far out of what you normally see, but still in the same vein. It's like, it's still believable that it's the same person. Now, this is like the people that we want to watch forever.
It's funny too, because that was the first, I feel like that is the perfect summary of the first season. Like they just were down. It was a place of just like total creativity and a freedom because of what Kate Adams had created, where it's almost like, your job is to make these people as real as possible, which that's what it always should be. But,
yes.
A lot of the times it's not. And we had so many of those moments where we were allowed to be so real.
Yeah.
And that's what made it even more tough. Second season, when we start getting these crazy notes.
Yeah.
And it just, you start to get noted to death and now you're barely resembling what actual humans would do.
But you also set yourself up for that because Amy does come in so happy-go-lucky, even though she's a single mom. She's got this energy and she's a little snarky and she's fun and you can tell she does this. And so when you get to, when you get to lean into that for a couple episodes or whatnot, you get to that turn that you make saying like, listen, I had all this bubbling up underneath. I fucked up my life. I don't want you to fuck up yours. Don't do this. it means so much more, because if you would have come in with that
Yes.
and showed it earlier, then we don't really care. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And it's not that and so it's such a great choice that way, where you're not all of a sudden acting like a different person. It was like, no, that was underneath there the whole time. And maybe she's made the choice of being bubbly and happy, or that's her defense mechanism. Otherwise she'll die, whatever the case may be. But you never let on with that. You never let that out. And so, when you get a chance to do that, it's so much more powerful. It's an amazing scene. Yeah.
It's such a good call. And and I really just think a miracle that they allowed it. You know how it is with women, and it's too dark, it's too heavy, she's too, and it's just like, no, that's how she would be feeling.
Yeah. And it was, because for me, it was the opposite, where I would have directors come in and go, hey, can you lighten up and smile a little bit and do this? And I was like, no. I'm going to shut everything down, right? I'm not going to be vulnerable. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to, I'm going to be standoffish and have the garage door shut, because I'm going to wait for the moment where I got to open up, where you all of a sudden are let in, and then where his facade breaks, because that's going to make it so much more interesting to watch. And it's going to, the fans are, the people watching, and everyone's going to go, oh, they're going to be drawn in, this guy doesn't do this. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. So when, Majandra, when I cry to her and come to the window, you just save them for those big moments. And, you don't want to be one note. You want to have some colors and some depth, but you don't want to give everything away. And, you kind of create that character, and you wait for those, particular moments, because it's just so much more refreshing. Yeah, to see.
And ironically, you were very funny. Michael was so funny, and you never had to be pushing it.
Joke. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You don't have to be hee hee. Yeah, it was
an adversary for your character. It's such a strange thing that I think people don't realize, that the directors are guests and you're there all the time. So you know the nuances of the set and your clothing and the choices your character would make. And so hard to say no to the director, because we don't want to be obstinate. We know that it's supposed to be their view for this hour, but it takes real courage to defend your character.
Yeah, I used to have no problem doing it. I was like, no, didn't care.
I was gonna
It's
say the same
where
thing.
you're
It was
like,
really
okay, this
bad.
guy is a little bit of an asshole.
Yeah.
But
needs to
now
take it
I
easy.
think, now I've almost gone too far the other way, where, you grow up, you get experience,
You're scared.
you get humbled,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
And so you try to be more collaborative and everything else. And so a director will be like, hey, why don't you try this? And in my head, I'm going, this is not a good idea. This is not good. But I tell myself, don't shut it down, try it. And then you try it, and you're like, and then they use it, and you're like, no, I was fucking right. And it's like, what is that balance of not giving them that, going, I'm just so sorry, it's not going to happen, but you want to be open at the same time. So you're always trying to, it's very tough. I mean, you've directed. How was that experience directing your own? Because you probably know them, you spent a lot of time with them on set.
Yeah.
But did you try to push anyone? Did you watch someone and go, if I ever get a chance to direct, I want to push this character a little bit this way. That would be fun.
Yes, I did. I got to do it with the lead of my show, where I was like, how about if we showed this part of him that we've never seen before? And I went to him beforehand, and thank goodness he was game in the best way possible. What he said was, okay, let me go away and think about it, which is exactly what you want. He has to metastasize it into his own, because he knows that character better than I do. And I did a thing as a director that I thought would be really freeing, and now I don't think I'd ever do it again. There was an emotional scene for two characters, and I said to both of them, let's do something we've never seen your character do before. Figure out what you want that to be, but I'm up for whatever you want to do. And looking back, I feel like it was too wide. I could have said that sentence and followed it up with, I think we've seen you cry before. I think we've seen you hungry before. Why don't we try? Like I was trying not to get in the way of their process, but I know what it's like when you're like, oh, this person expects something of me now.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to be huge, or I don't want to do anything because I don't want to do the wrong thing. So it's like, oh, an invitation to do whatever you want is great. And then an area, I think is a better follow-up.
Yeah, like kids where they like parameters.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, got the boundaries, the square. It's a big square, but yeah.
Yes.
I was reading this one book about, and they were talking about directing, and it was interesting because when I directed Baron and DeLuca, I was trying to always to do that because I know what I want, and you do give those, when a director's like, let's get big with it, let's go a little bigger, and you're like, that's not direction. But I found myself, I was on set and I was just like, yeah, that's what I want to say. Like, that's your instinct because you just can't verbalize it in the way you want.
I know.
So the director, this one director said, it was just use action words.
Oh.
It wasn't feeling words. It was action words. You literally go like, you need to leave this place.
Right.
Whatever you need to do, you need to go. And then the other person, let's say like, you need to make them stay. That's it. And so you give them this action, this marching order, motivation. And then the feeling will come out of that because they'll start getting panicky that they can't leave, or they'll start getting angry or mad. And so then with the action words, he was saying, that's how you're not telling someone how to feel. You let them feel it, but it'll probably come out. So I would always be on set going, what's my action word for this? And then you would just end up and go, just do it bigger. Oh, let's just go because it's way harder than you think it is.
Yeah.
I know. And you don't want to leave that person hanging.
Yes.
In Pandora's box of, well, you're not quite getting it, but I don't know what word to give you because it's so far away.
Exactly.
We had our friend on, Diane, that is not an actor.
Oh boy.
And we forced him, to audition for a big movie back in the day. And
I got him an audition for a movie I was doing because I thought he would be perfect for the role.
And he really would be. Like, you know what I mean? If he knew how to just sort of do that trick that some of us can sometimes play on ourselves where you don't feel like the lens is on you, he is just very, truly like an absolute comedic genius and gorgeous. And just he bit it. And we were like, oh yeah, that's right. That happens.
I told him, I was like, this is you.
Yes.
This is written for you. This is you. And so looking back, he went, all those other funny little shit I do, I create a character.
Right.
And he goes, you told me this was me and I didn't create a character. And that's it. And it was so interesting where even when you're really, even like I'll read an audition scene or whatever else. And I was like, I never say this is me, but like, I can do this. Like, this is in my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
I got a character for this, but I never think of it as me per se. And so as soon as I told him that, I totally fucked him up because I just like, if someone's like, this is you, I don't know how to play Brendan. Like, I'd probably fuck up Brendan.
I have been so many times testing against a person who is playing themselves. Like, their writer friends wrote, it's Brendan, and they even name it Brendan. You know what I mean? And every time that person is like spinning out because it's just, and also you're expected to deliver.
And the character I know the least is me. I've had the same problem. People are like, oh, I wrote this for you. And I'm like, what part of me do you think I am? Because there's a whole bunch of other parts that I don't show you. And the character I have the least facility with is myself. But now I have to do the same thing. I have to make it some other character. And then somebody, this one writer wrote something for me once, and the network would not let her cast me as my character's named after me. And of course, I feel like more of a failure than when I usually don't get the job because I failed to get the job written for me. So this now became like, I can't act and I don't have enough status. So I remember a friend of both of ours, me and the writer, said, that's so unfair to do to the actor. You didn't write her. You used her as a muse. That's a different thing. Like, you created a character, but you were inspired by her. You can't tell her you wrote this for her because, hey, you don't own it. If somebody's paying you to write it, they own it. It's their character.
Majandra did write a role for you in Baron and DeLuca, and you did it, and we're very good.
Yes.
So that one we didn't fuck you up on.
We just didn't tell you, but no, I think we did. I think we did tell her. Yeah.
My
did not fuck that up.
Was when you get the call from your friend saying, hey, will you come do this? In my heart, I'm like, I'm going to do it anyway. Please, God, don't let it be bad. Like, my instinct is always like,
totally.
If your friend says, will you? Like, I'm 80% in. And then I read it and I was like, this is so good. How do you have this whole other skill? And I was like, okay, so Majandra can write. Let's see if Brendan can direct. And then I get to set. And I was like, not only are you also spectacular at directing, like, you guys are a really good unit together. Like, a good producing back and forth. And where Brendan's like quick and fast and sharp, Majandra comes over and does the nicety and makes sure that he's feeling good. And then she goes back and does it. And then they're really fast with each other. And I was like, this is awesome.
I'm so glad that was your experience. I mean, we like to think that that's what we're doing, but we never know how we're coming across. I mean, you never know. But we had the time of I don't want to lead the witness, but I had the time of my life. That was just so
It was
fun.
one of my favorite things I've ever done, easily. There's no question about it. Yeah.
It was so great.
I'm so proud of both of you guys. It's so good.
Thank you so much for trusting us and coming. And not only that, I mean, it's not like we were shooting in LA. We had to drag you out.
We did shoot. We shot one of hers in LA, though.
One in LA and one
in LA, but
and then we did drag you out here to Berlin.
Yeah.
Know that now that you have children, sometimes moms will go anywhere for anything.
Totally.
Exactly.
You're like, I'm sorry you have to leave LA. And I'm like, and stay in a hotel room by myself?
Yeah. Oh, totally. Totally. But that was, it was so fun. And I mean, you were such truly, because right away you were like, okay, I'll do it. I was like, I hope she likes the script, because it's true. You just don't know. You're like, is this garbage? Is this good? Who knows?
Yeah. And everyone has such a great response to you arriving on screen for the first time, where there's like, Diane!
Yeah,
right? And it's just like, that's what we wanted.
Out. Yeah, we're like, we did it. We accomplished it.
We have the ultimate Easter egg. I'm so glad. I will be your egg at any time, friends.
Right.
I mean, but truly could have gone so differently. It's like you show up to this weird set in LA. I'm wearing a wig. Just like there's so much there where it could have gone terribly wrong. But yeah. And how funny too was it your travel, your pickup, the whole thing was just all like the fans and it was so like, we just threw you in there.
Roswell has the most intense fans. It's so exciting and they're so great. And that's really weird. Like I can still pretty much go to the supermarket unencumbered. If somebody knows who I am, it's like, it's cute. It's not like they have to come up and tell me about, whatever.
Right.
But landing on your set, it's like every place I went, someone would go, oh my God. And I was like, oh my God, it's all fans. Like they're all here congregating together. And I was like, well, this might be the most famous I'll ever be. Everything person here knows who I am, and they're happy to see me.
And they were so incredible. No one had done what they had done, like what jobs they were given on the set, and everyone just adapted and figured it out. I was like, wow, this is very impressive. They really are just the best fans and not toxic. It's truly just, we're so lucky. It's wild.
Yes. So
well, thank you so much, Diane, for doing this. We are forever indebted.
Love to you guys.
All right. If, like us, you loved Roswell and wanted to keep watching the push and pull of Michael and Maria, then check out our show, Baron and DeLuca. A brand new story set in a familiar town in New Mexico where a familiar combustible love is still playing out and where paranormal forces still have plans, whether you believe in them or not. Check out the first 2 episodes at www.youtube.com/@xfilespod. That's EXFILESPOD. The X-Files with Majandra Delfino
And Brendan Fehr is a production of Portholes Inc. Media.
edited and mixed by Stephen Wells.
The music by Fred Corey.